What movies influenced one of the greatest movies ever, 2001: A Space Odyssey? Well, Stanley Kubrick screened this movie and said it was a half step above the usual science fiction fare, and he used a number of images and sort of set design ideas from this 1963 Czech movie, which many of you have not heard of probably. It's Ikarie XB-1. Let me tell you why this is a forgotten classic and why you might want to watch it coming up next.
Země nikdy nebyla!
Ikarie XB-1 is a gem of a 1960s science fiction movie made in Czechoslovakia during the so-called Czech New Wave, and it was behind the Iron Curtain, so you could read some communism or communist propaganda into the movie. Nevertheless, I think this movie works as a general science fiction movie, influential to not just 2001, but also to Star Trek. I think Gene Roddenberry, when he went to pitch Star Trek to CBS executives, had this particular movie in mind, and indeed this movie contains probably all three typical Star Trek plots. What are those three plots? Well, spaceship in space going to explore, find some new strange thing in the universe, whether it's a planet, a civilization, or an alien being. Plot number two, spacecraft comes across something very weird from Earth's past. This usually involves time travel. Plot number three, spaceship comes across something that comes aboard the ship. It's sort of an invasion of the ship, and the crew becomes harmed in some way, goes crazy, contracts a disease, and so on. All three happen in this movie, which is based on a Stanislaw Lem novella, one of my favorite authors from the 20th century. You must read Lem, who is a Polish author, and always critiquing American science fiction. As you might know, Lem also produced a great novel, Solaris, which was turned into a movie by Tarkovsky. And so I think if you're exploring later science fiction and outer space movies, this is a good one to go to. It's basically about a spacecraft from Earth that's going to go meet and find civilization at the star Alpha Centauri. On board the spaceship, you get a little microcosm of human society, including men and women, older and younger. They dance, they have fun. In the first 30 minutes, you see sort of regular society going on. The movie is a slow build to what will become its, big problems about half an hour in. They encounter novel things, and they encounter things they don't understand, and they must deal with them. With Stanislaw Lem-based material, you usually get a criticism of humanism, positivism, sort of progressive philosophy of science stuff where we believe or dream that science is going to solve every problem. Usually Lem wants us to reflect on the human condition and ourselves, that we're mysteries to ourselves. We don't even understand ourselves, let alone anything out there in nature or the universe.
Myslel jsem, kdo ví, co tu nenajdeme. Podívej, číslo. Je to ze země. Nesmysl.
The movie, in essence, is about this whole crew, this whole sort of microcosm of society, which has to learn to, one, get along internally, two, they have to encounter strange new problems out there, and then sort of keep themselves together while these problems threaten them. And you can definitely pick up on perhaps the socialist propaganda, but also the kind of thing that Gene Roddenberry was interested in, a crew that is a family that is representative of society. And what does that mean for us? What is a society, not just in the 20th century, but in the far future? What will that be like, and how do we stick together in spite of technological progress or developments? This movie at once looks very cheesy in places, especially with the robot, who is sort of a classic Lost in Space old-style robot.
Je zázrak minulého století. Kovový muž, který nejenom...
Počkej,
And yet there are some advanced elements in this, so black and white cinematography certainly makes this look fresher and more classic than it would otherwise, as compared to, say, Forbidden Planet, a 1950s American movie that to me looks dated because of the color cinematography here. The classic black and white works. You've got lots of extreme close shots, angled shots, and the director wants to cut into action a lot. There's a lot of perhaps French New Wave techniques popping into this movie that make it seem fresher and more modern, I think, to you, a 21st century viewer, than maybe older science fiction movies would. I also love the planet, the look of the planet in this. It's unique, it's different, and it's interesting interesting, and I don't know what their techniques were with this, but the Czech special effects people, especially like Karel Zeman in Invention for Destruction, and here in this movie, we're doing novel and interesting things that I don't think have been replicated. And I think modern filmmakers or video makers could take a cue from them and, you know, bring back in some of their techniques because they look really interesting. And easily one of the most interesting things about this is sound, not just the music, but the sound effects are weird and different.
Proveden.
This seems to be a synth or proto-synth score, and yet the sound effects do sound futuristic and would be a model for what comes later, especially in, say, 2001: A Space Odyssey. So for all those reasons, I commend Ikarie XB-1 to you. It's not a great movie, but it's very interesting if, like me, you're really into science fiction, and if you're interested in pre-Star Trek, pre-2001, pre-Star Wars movies, and if you're interested in a different take on outer space exploration. This took place during the Cold War. This movie was made during the Cold War. Its critique of human nature and the desire for knowledge, I think, is basic but apropos, probably will always be applicable. Have you seen this movie? What do you think about it? Let us know. If you've seen any other Czech New Wave movies that you really like, including science fiction movies, please put them in the comments. Please subscribe. Thank you and have a great day.